Hello guys, my name is Sparkfinger and welcome to this new video, an episode of AI Dungeon News. In this video, we are going to discuss all the things that very recently happened to AI Dungeon, a text online video game powered by an AI, similar to Dungeons and Dragons. If you're not aware of what has been happening in the recent months in the May of 2021, I suggest you watch the first few videos on the subject matter. In short, it would seem that AI Dungeon developers, company known as Latitude, decided to change their approach to handling the material in their particular game and decided to start moderating some things in the game, such as any kind of sexual content that might involve minors. And with that, they started to also they had to start reviewing the new stories. People didn't know exactly how it was going. We had the mechanism basically pinned down. So basically, every time a scenario inside of a game got triggered by the filter system, then it got put into a queue and then put into manual moderation. And guess what? The recent news suggests that something else was a part of the system. Recently on the infamous image board 4chan as well as Reddit, some random news came up. As we can see here, Latitude is paying random strangers on a crowdsourcing platform money to read your stories and police them for no words, just so there is no, let's say, there is no material in these stories that violates the new zero tolerance policies and guidelines. Basically, if you really want, you can read it up close. I'm not going to click on it. These supposedly are the new guidelines for the lowly paid interns and moderators who are supposed to check all this stuff, specifically for stuff that falls under P stuff, if you know what I mean. I'm not gonna be talking about this too loud. I actually want to get monetized on this channel at some point. Here we can see some of the comments. People are outraged, and once again people start to post very depressing stuff about how they feel and how they don't really want to leave now that their stories might be leaked. However, this is not the whole story. Let's keep reading. Here is the next part. As we can see, the whole story originated from 4chan. So there was a certain anonymous person that started posting info about the fact that there might be a job that contains stuff from AI Dungeon that needs to be moderated by some lowly paid interns. It's outsourced, basically. So in this here actual screenshot, I'm also, well, let's take a very short look at it. It only gets worse. The task platform is insecure AF. Give me some keywords from your story to send you the first sentence from it if it's in the set. Some pretty wild ass in there, in my opinion. So later a person sent them a part of their story and they managed to continue it. And so these people took to be a certain, let's say, confirmation of the fact that those are indeed actual stories from AI Dungeon rather than a fabrication. However, we all know that 4chan isn't the most reliable news source, so I myself wasn't quite convinced yet. And it took me a while, of course, to realize that it might actually not be a fabrication. But we'll come back to that in a second. Right now, let's review more stuff that has been posted on 4chan. Let's take a look here. Right here, we can see a strange story. Well, not a strange story. Supposedly another story that has been leaked, and apparently a 15-year-old person, might have put their own personal information into this particular story. And supposedly this particular anon, the task up anon, checked this story, and despite there being some inconsistencies with real life, it checked out this person does exist. I mean, I personally was still not completely convinced. This stuff is Well, simply easier to take. You dig up some information on a random person, then put it into a story in AI Dungeon. Let's keep reading. People immediately, when this news came up, immediately reached out to the developers. And let's take a look at what developers themselves had to say about it. People from the Latitude, from the minor company that actually is the developer of AI Dungeon, rather than the parent company OpenAI. Let's take a look at what they said. Here, as we can see, one of the one of the Discord moderators is asking one of the people on the developer team, "Hey again, at Avi, just need an answer on this since it's a fairly serious claim. There's a Reddit thread posted in #feature discussion from 4chan on Latitude supposedly crowdsourcing AI Dungeon Venture moderation. Could I get something to address this one, since without any quick communication this will get out of hand really quickly?" And Avi responded, "This is not us. I can confirm right now, this is a hoax and this is not us," at BrandUK, the moderator. "We are most definitely not crowdsourcing moderation or even have the intent to create a content moderation farm like this," is implying. "Also, this is not language you use at all internally, and I'm really disgusted by this." So basically, this was the thing that made me really think that this most likely is a hoax. Once again, created, farmed up by 4chaners who just thrive in chaos. Here, let's take a look at another screenshot. "We are investigating alleged screenshot being provided as part of these rumors. I myself was still quite not convinced. I was pretty much 100% convinced that this was a hoax as well. However, then people started saying that it most likely wasn't Latitude, but OpenAI, the big company, who now get to be blamed for all of the stuff that Latitude did, because clearly they have all the influence over them." Let's take a look at another screenshot. Here we are on the very not safe for work site known as 4chan, and as we can see, people do believe that it is extremely unlikely, though unconfirmed, that OpenAI is sending Latitude's data to crowdsourcing platforms to have humans flag not safe for work content that involves minors. That includes stories from even before the filter, which is of course something really hard to believe, because how would they find stories from before the filter? Here is another post. Why is this subreddit preventing relevant posts from showing up? Showing us that this person really wants their particular posts to be seen. And here they've added some links to supposedly leaked stories. A lot of them are quite not safe for work, but strangely enough don't involve almost any P stuff at all. So I personally checked through this, and it does indeed seem like these stories were written in AI Dungeon. I still was not convinced, because frankly, it was not too hard to fabricate at all. You just take your personal collection of NSFW stuff and post it online. So Anons might still be trying to troll us. That's what I was thinking at the moment. But well, let's just skip to the next part. However, I personally was really convinced when some was almost completely convinced. I'm still not exactly sure if it's a hoax or not. But later at night I came to check Discord, because people were reporting that a few people in Discord have been confirming that it is indeed their stories that have been leaked. And now I personally am not sure what to think. We don't really have any confirmation whether this is a hoax or not. I do believe it's somewhat plausible that it was OpenAI just gathering some random stories and testing the boundaries of the moderation, just sending the most perverse stuff possible, so it could be, outsourced and then manually moderated by a human rather than a bot, because bots clearly can't tell the difference between anything. Not yet, anyway. To summarize, there is no definite conclusion whether this is a hoax or not. We have some proof that this is a hoax, and we have some proof that it might not be a hoax. Latitude developers claim that it is in fact not them who sent these stories, because frankly I don't see how stupid you'd have to be to outsource something so sensitive. So most likely they're not, clearly not. In fact, it wasn't Latitude who were sending the stories. People speculate it's been either OpenAI who were sending the stories to be humanly moderated by a human, flagged for certain P stuff. Or maybe it is in fact still a hoax. Although very few people do believe it's a hoax because of Discord. And Discord seems to be a much more trustworthy source of people. No one trusts 4chan, few people trust Reddit, and a lot of people trust stuff that is posted on Discord. This is how it works. Okay, so we covered this part of the news. Let's move on. And funny enough, just at that time, something else very serious happened. Let's take a look. We've been hard at work, Latitude posts in the game. Here's what's new since you last logged in. 28th of May 2021. Suspension system. As the next evolution of our safety strategy, we will begin to automatically suspend the accounts of the 5% of users who most frequently violate our content policies. Or in other words, get flagged by the filter. Regardless if they are, touching on P stuff or not. We'll get into why it's important later. The first suspension lasts 24 hours, and subsequent violations will trigger a 7-day suspension. All suspensions will be reviewed manually by human moderators to ensure accuracy and remove incorrect suspensions. Most users have still never triggered the safety filter after a single time, so we expect that most users will be similarly unaffected by this change. Basically, allow me to explain. The reason that Latitude finally introduced this change, finally started banning people throughout all of their game, is because people have been triggering the filter intentionally. As I said, people have been intentionally triggering the filters to create funny screenshots, like, let's say, about an 8-year-old laptop, or riding a horse, riding a 10-year-old horse, or touching watermelons. Funny stuff, basically. And this basically is an attempt by Latitude to curb down on these memes, because clearly a lot of this stuff that gets triggered by the filter is done intentionally by a lot of users to create funny memes or to test the system. I personally tested this system a lot, trying to figure out whether they are or not they are changing the filter from day to day, and it would seem to me that they are indeed changing the filter. Words and expressions that used to trigger the filter in some situations now don't trigger the filter anymore, although users report differing experiences. And here's some more stuff. People report being suspended. Because, well, guess what? Sometimes the AI in AI Dungeon itself generates not really safe for work stuff, something borderline P stuff. And so people get really upset when this does happen. I actually haven't played the game since this last update, since yesterday night, so I can't really report anything on that personally. To be honest, I don't even want to experiment with triggering the filter because I don't care about getting banned, even falsely. What does this mean? So basically, when this happens to you, when you get temporarily suspended, this shows up to you. You are not authorized to use the game anymore. So guys, this has been the episode of AI Dungeon News. I'll continue doing more episodes on news, particularly not just AI Dungeon, but novel AI and things like that. This will now be labeled as a news episode. And I apologize in advance for the low quality of this particular episode, because frankly all of this has taken all of us by surprise, not just me. Spent the whole night trying to figure out whether or not it's a hoax, and I still am not convinced. Anyway, if you want to stay up to date with all the information, please subscribe to Sparkfinger channel, and I'll personally appreciate it. We are not only going to be covering the news, but hopefully distracting ourselves from this painful reality that we're living in. Especially when novel AI comes out. Until tomorrow, bye for now, Sparkfinger out.